climate change, we have a limited amount of time to resolve it, and it concerns everyone.
The only way we can do this is we need a price on carbon.
For me, it helps to know where are the challenges, and then you start to see the solutions.
Fossil fuels need to be priced to include their cost to society.
If we miss this opportunity, that means a few more years. Potentially, it's going to be too late.
Whether you like it or not, in 10 years, in 20 years, it's going to affect you.
Are we filming?
We are filming.
Okay, cool. So climate change rhetoric has obviously, there's been a great groundswell of it. You know, you could say that like we're really turning the corner, and carbon pricing just comes up again and again and again as something we have to do.
Okay. Post-its in the wind. Can you hear me? I'm good? Oh, yeah. Since I've been getting involved in the whole climate world, I've kind of jumped into it all. Carbon pricing is like, everyone is talking about carbon pricing.
One of the things that became very, very clear to me is that we're trying to throw money and technology at the symptoms of climate change. We will be throwing finance at adaptation and mitigation, but adaptation and mitigation comes after the fact. It comes after the disease has already taken hold. Right. So they're throwing good money into a leaky system.
So you're saying that pricing carbon is the solution for the cause?
For the cause of climate change, exactly. One of the quickest ways to accelerate everybody's solutions is to correct the global economy so that it pushes carbon-based resources out of it.
The tricky thing about carbon dioxide is that you can't see it.
And it's global, it's dispersed everywhere. So the taxpayers are paying those costs. The cost of extreme weather events such as Hurricane Sandy, people have to pay that cost in their health and the cost of healthcare while they're being caused by these carbon dioxide emissions from burning fossil fuels.
And so if you take the external costs that they're creating that aren't in the price and you put them in the price, then they actually reflect their true cost to society, and then people will start choosing cleaner, like renewables or cleaner fuels, and you'll get a much faster switch.
Every country has an economy, and so every country has an opportunity to implement a carbon pricing instrument that is going to be a benefit to them. Eventually we can, what we call, harmonize those systems and link them.
There's two different versions of carbon pricing, quantity or price. Quantity is the government creates a certain amount of permits that caps the amount of emissions allowed. Companies who want to emit have to have a permit, so they have to either buy these permits from the government at an initial auction, or sometimes they're given to them at the initial kind of introduction. And then they trade these permits between companies.
Cap and trade.
It's in the title. So it creates this kind of new market of trading, which is kind of like a commodities market in that the price goes up and down depending on supply or demand. So the thing about that method is that there's a strong certainty in terms of how many emissions will be allowed, but there's a lot of uncertainty about the price. So it's hard for businesses to build that into their business model. So the other method is a price method where you tax the carbon-based fuel at the source, so when it comes out of the ground or is imported, comes across the border, and then that makes that fuel more expensive. In that case, there's a lot of certainty about the price, but uncertainty about emissions because there's no cap on how many carbon emissions we'll still be creating. But the idea is that inevitably they'll go down because companies will inevitably want to find cheaper ways of doing it, and carbon-based fuels will become more and more expensive, and therefore they'll be incentivized to look for clean forms of energy. We need to create an economic incentive for our global economy to move away from fossil fuels, and right now there is no economic incentive.
There's a lot of different ways to price carbon. You have a lot of different mechanisms for it, and within those mechanisms there's a lot of subcategories of how to do it. Right. So we want to do it right, and like most things with climate change, there's no one-size-fits-all.
If something like carbon pricing was put in place, it would really shift things in a huge way.